So I got this comment on one of my most viewed YouTube videos on this channel, and I thought to myself, yeah, I like that idea, let's do it. I'm Doro44, and in today's video, I'm going to be comparing a phone, webcam, and a mirrorless camera, and hopefully help you decide on which one is best for you and your Twitch streams. So if you like the video, leave a like down below. It'll help the video get shown to more streamers that are wondering the same thing. And if you like streamer help content, videos come out every week on my channel, so consider subscribing if you like that sort of thing. I also stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We play a lot of Genshin Impact and talk about this stuff all the time, so come on by because we'd love to have you. So a few things to get out of the way before we get into the video. This whole video will be recorded through OBS so that you get the true experience and quality that you would get on your streams. All the recordings will be at 1080p, 60 FPS. For my mirrorless camera, I will be using the Sony a6100, which is pretty much just a 6000, but it does 4K. But in this instance, we'll be doing 1080p. The a6000 is pretty much a go-to mirrorless camera for streamers who want to get into the camera side of things. And I do have a Sigma lens on it, which is also another standard lens to go with when you pick up a camera like this. For my phone, I'm using the iPhone 12 Pro Max because it's my only phone and this is the only one I have access to. You can pretty much use any smartphone from the last few generations for this to work. And then lastly, for the webcam, I'm using the Logitech C920. This is pretty much the standard webcam, the go-to webcam for streamers. Whenever someone wants to get into streaming, they pretty much just pick this guy up. So that's what I'm gonna be using. This video is gonna be intended for streamers, and I'm gonna make it a simple video. I'm gonna make a pros and a cons list for each camera, and just because I've used all of them for my streams, and just give you my personal opinion on which one is best for certain situations. It's not gonna go into super depth detail. If you want a video like that, there are other content creators that do that sort of thing, but this is gonna be a more simple, straightforward pros and cons list type of video. And then lastly, before I get into the comparisons, I do wanna preface this video by saying this. No matter what camera you guys go with, your lighting is the most important thing to your picture quality. For instance, I just turned off my backlights and I've blown out these lights out of proportion, and the picture quality doesn't look that great, right? But if we adjust our lights and add some backdrop to it, it looks pretty good. So your lighting is the most important thing, guys, so I would heavily invest into that first and learn about it so that you can fine tune your picture quality. All right, and now last thing before I get into the comparisons is my environment, because I think it's pretty much important for me to tell you what my environment in this video looks like so that you can get a clear picture of what we're working with here. First, on all of my windows, I have blackout curtains so that I can control my lighting in my environment the most that I can. If I let sunlight in, I don't have control over that. So if you haven't invested in blackout curtains and you have windows in your room, I'd highly suggest you pick some up. I have some in the description below as well. Secondly, I'm using the Elgato key lights. I have two, one on my left and one on my right, with my left one being at about 5% and my right one being at about 10%. And then lastly, in the back, I have my blue LEDs so that it really makes my background pop and it separates me from my background. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's get into the comparison, starting off with our mirrorless Sony a6100. All right, so let's start off with the Sony a6100 mirrorless camera. And the footage that you're seeing right now is all recorded through OBS. And of course, I'm running the Sigma lens on it as well, so I get that bokeh effect or the blurry effect in the background. Now, some pros for using this camera, it has a lot of multi-uses to it. Since it's a camera, you can use it for your streams, you can use it to make YouTube videos, and you can use it to do photography. There's a lot of uses for it. And that was actually one of my deciding factors when I bought this camera. I know I wanted to make YouTube videos alongside streaming, and it just made sense. Another pro is obviously the quality. You're probably gonna get the best quality out of a mirrorless camera. There's just no going around it because there's just a lot of horsepower behind the hardware. And then the last pro that I could think of is it's very customizable. When you buy a camera, there is so many things that you can customize: the shutter speed, the ISO, the creative style, or the color output for it. There's just so much that you can do with it to fine tune it to get the best quality out of it. But with those pros, there are some cons. First con, let's just get this one out of the way. They're very expensive, and a lot of people just can't simply justify buying this expensive piece of hardware. This camera that I'm using right now was on sale for $750, and then I got the lens as a gift, But if I was to buy the lens myself, it's a $400 lens. On top of that, you need to buy a cam link to connect it to your computer to use it for streaming, a dummy battery so that it doesn't run out of battery midstream, and then a tripod and all the cables. There's just a lot that you need to buy with it. It becomes very expensive very quickly, which is actually another con, is that it's not just plug and play. You need to buy all of those things to make it work. The cam link itself is $120. With that money, you could just buy a webcam. And then going off of that with the setup, it requires a lot of learning. It's a lot of fine tuning and having to learn about cameras and videography and what all the settings do. And for some people, they don't have the time to do that or the patience. And I remember when I was getting into this, I had to learn so much and it took me weeks. And I still don't feel like I know everything about cameras, but I know just enough to get the quality that I want. And that's honestly the last con I can think of. It's up to you to decide on whether or not the cons outweigh the pros or vice versa. But with that said, let's jump on over to the webcam now, the Logitech C920, and see how that quality looks. All right, so now we're using the Logitech C920 webcam. You can probably already tell that the quality is not as good as the Sony a6100, which is pretty much obvious, right? You can already kind of tell that there's some fuzziness going around in the picture, but a lot of times you wouldn't have your camera this blown up like this. A lot of the time in your streams, you would have your camera about this size. Once it's shrunk down to this size, it looks a lot better. But obviously, the bigger you make this source in your OBS, the fuzzier it's gonna get. So this already looks a lot better when it's in a smaller scale. But some pros with the webcam is, first and foremost, it is a lot cheaper than an actual camera with the lens and everything. This webcam is about $100, and usually 1080p 60 FPS webcams are around that price. So they're a lot more affordable for people who just want to get into streaming. Secondly, they're very easy to set up. This webcam is just plug and use. You might want to adjust the color and the settings a little bit, but after that, you're ready to go. And to be honest with you, the last pro is it's good enough for streaming, guys. Again, when the image is shrunk down with your gameplay in the background and everything, it looks great. And for probably about 90% of streamers, it's good enough. Now for some cons, there isn't as much customization. There is a little bit, but definitely not in depth as like an actual camera. Now, another con is the quality isn't as great, but again, it's not the worst. Another con is sometimes your settings that you set for your webcam can actually reset within OBS, kind of being a pain in the butt when you don't want to have to redo your settings every time you go live. And then lastly, it can only take you so far. Now, if streaming is your only thing that you do, yeah, I mean, it's a great option. But if you want to make YouTube videos down the road or other types of media, a webcam isn't going to take you as far, because with YouTube, quality really does matter. But overall, the webcam is a great option for like 90% of streamers, guys. So there's nothing wrong with using it. But with that out of the way, let's move on to our last camera, our phone. All right, so now this is using my iPhone 12 Pro Max with Elgato's Epoch Cam software. It is connected to my PC using Wi-Fi, so there's no cables right now, which is actually really cool. You will have a little bit of latency doing it, but it's not the end of the world. I would say it's actually better than the Logitech C920. I feel like the image looks a little bit more crisp. So let me flip my phone around so that we can use the back cameras and see if there's a quality difference there. Now this is my phone using the back camera. Your back camera will always be better than your front facing camera. And then as you can tell, I mean, to me, it looks already a lot better using the back camera. Now, some pros for using a phone versus all the other ones is that pretty much everybody has a phone. So you don't have to go out and find a webcam or spend money. And almost everybody has a smartphone. Another pro is that cameras and phones are like really good, guys. And so in my opinion, they will be a little bit better than webcams, especially if you shrink down the webcam size again, it still looks better than the Logitech in my opinion. And then the last pro is that it's super easy to set up. Honestly, this was actually easier to set up than the Logitech, which is saying something. I downloaded the app on my Windows computer and downloaded it on my iPhone, and then I just opened the app in my phone and then added the source in OBS, and then it just connected. And then it looked great on all of the default settings. I did tweak it a little bit, but not a lot. Now, some cons for using your phone is that you don't have access to your phone. If this is the only cell phone that you have and you need it just in case for emergencies, or you use it to read chat, you're out of luck because you're using it as your camera. So that is one downside to using your phone as a webcam. You just don't have access to it for other functions. Another one is that quality will depend on which phone you have. Again, if you have like a flagship phone or like one of the newest ones, you're pretty much set. All those cameras look great on both Android and iPhone devices, but the older the phone, usually the worse the camera quality gets. And then lastly, I have a feeling that using this method, I feel like over time, it'll just degrade the lifespan of your phone, using it constantly as a webcam for your streams, depending on how long you stream. Some people stream for 8 to 10 hours. Having your phone turned on, plugged in constantly for 10 hours every day when you stream will probably shorten the lifespan of your phone. And if it's your only phone, or if it's a very expensive phone that you don't want to do that with, it might not be the best option. All right, so in conclusion, if you're just starting off in streaming and you don't know if you want to really heavily invest in equipment, or you're not too sure if you're going to like it or not, but you've got a decent phone lying around, use your phone as a webcam. It'll save you a lot of money, and the quality is pretty good depending on the phone that you have. But if you need your phone for other things while you're streaming, like reading chat or just for it to be a phone, then I would suggest getting a webcam. The Logitech ones are really good. They're the standard in the industry, but any 1080p 60 FPS camera will get you far. And if you mess with the settings well enough, you can get pretty good quality out of a webcam. And then lastly, if you have money to invest in a nice camera and you have many uses for it, like YouTube or taking photos and streaming, I would suggest getting a mirrorless camera. But that's honestly if you really want to take the whole streaming content creation thing seriously and possibly make it a career in your future. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video and hopefully it helped you out in deciding on which camera to go with. But guys, stay safe, stay happy, and I'll see you at the next video.